What's up guys, today we are going to have a chug battle between the Ampero and the MG30 from NUX. You guys asked for this a lot in my last video and also have just been asking me for some Ampero content in general, so I got it out. It's over here. So what I figured we'd do here today is get both of these guys out, set up a couple patches on each of them, shoot them out in a mix, and then I will kind of give you guys my thoughts and opinions on each one. Although, fair warning, if you are looking on a straightforward answer on which one is better, you will probably not find that here. I will most likely be on the fence as usual because I'm sure each one does things better than the other one and vice versa, and makes it hard to pick a clear-cut winner when you take everything into consideration. Real quick, how good does this 𝗦𝗣𝗘𝗏𝗂 patch sound? But since the MG30 doesn't have one, we'll have to build a patch with an amp that they have in common. What can we do? And right away, a big plus for the Ampero is the amount of effects and amps and cabinets and stuff that you have in here. There's just a ton of different sounds in here. And when you compare this to something like the MG30, you will probably triple the amount of effects and amps and cabinets and stuff that are inside the Ampero as compared to our friend over there, the MG30. Maybe we could try, let's go with the diesel. Okay, let me go over the settings of this here really quick. Gain's at 50. Let's turn, the presence is at 55. Let's turn the master up a little bit. And then all of the EQ knobs are pretty much at 60, and this is what we get. Sounds pretty heavy. I don't think we have a boost engaged. Let's throw a boost on this here just to get a little bit more oomph. And like I said, there are just a ton more options to choose from in the Ampero. And one that they have in common, pretty much every amp modeler has in common, is a tube screamer, which makes sense. It's a good go-to boost. We'll get this set up in boost mode with 0 on the gain, 100 on the volume, and we'll put the tone right in the middle. Very cool sounding. I'm using the internal cabinet emulation for these, and let's see what we have going on here. And while I am thinking about it and mentioning it, I also really like the fact that this has a touchscreen on it. It does make some of the navigation a little bit easier than using all the knobs. I'm using the US King 4x12, and I have a 421 on it. The volume is at 100, which is probably overkill. Almost all the positions are at 0, except I have position Y at 7. No real science behind that or anything, that's just where I thought it sounded good. Alright, so that's what the diesel sounds like in the Ampero with stock cabinet emulation. Let's hook up the MG30 and see if we can get something similar with the diesel in that unit. I'm gonna do that now. I have to pause you for a minute. Okay, let's turn on the MG30, and there's something really cool about this guy here. You have your own custom splash screen when you turn it on, which is pretty cool. It's not gonna win at any awards or anything, but you know, it's neat. Yeah, no touch screen on this guy, which makes it, you know, a little bit harder to dial in. Now, like I mentioned when I was demoing the Ampero, this is one of the big limitations of the MG30 is there's not very many cabinets here. In terms of 4x12s, we have the 1960 4x12, the greenback 4x12, and the vintage 4x12. That's really it. It's just one of those things you gotta keep in mind. We'll put the vintage 4x12, we'll put a 421 on it. We need to dial this guy in quite a bit here. Okay, there's a really big difference here, especially in the low end. The MG30 has a noticeable lack of low end compared to the Ampero, at least in terms when everything is stock. We will put a custom IR when we do the shootout, but just for now when we're using the stock settings, it's pretty noticeable that there's a lack of low end here. But a big difference that I noticed when I'm playing it is the MG30 sort of has more feel to it. It feels like there's more give and take with the amp when you're playing it, if that makes sense, especially when there's no boost engaged. Let's engage the boost though and see what that does to it. It's very cool. There's definitely a little bit of noticeable difference in the responsiveness of the unit and just the way it feels when you're playing it. The MG30 feels a little bit more organic, but we are definitely missing the full spectrum of the EQ range, and it's super noticeable. It almost sounds bandpass, like it's just very mid-heavy. I feel like we're kind of cheating here, but let's throw an EQ on this guy and see if we can bring it back to life a little bit. You know, it's really hard to say just sitting here, especially since I had to take that break to set up the different units, but I think that if you don't mind having to set up an EQ in your chain for your patches when you're using this thing, that you can really reclaim some of that lost low and high end, and it doesn't really take that much. I just barely notched that EQ in and it really had a dramatic effect. As far as the experiences of dialing in each one, I think it's kind of a toss-up because while you have a really beautiful user interface with the NUX MG30, and I've talked about this in great detail on my other videos on the MG30, but I just really like the fact that you can see the amp that you're dialing in. You know, they changed the knobs in the UI to match the amp a little bit more. I just think they're really cool, nice touches. Whereas with the Ampero, you don't have that, but you do have a touch screen. So I mean, there's a little bit of give and take there. Now, also a big thing to consider if we're really putting these things, you know, head to head, is the Ampero does have a lot more in and out options. It has balanced XLR outputs, it has a MIDI input, but it does not have an effects loop, which the MG30 has. That's actually a really big difference. It makes the MG30 more compatible with external analog gear than the Ampero, even though it doesn't have as many effects. So like you can see, there are a ton of different pros and cons between these two units, but I know that you guys are more interested in what the raw tones are like out of each one of them probably than how many effects each one has or what the in and out options are, or whether or not I like the user interface. So let's plug into both of these units and compare them in a mix with both the stock cabinet emulation from the units themselves as well as a third-party IR just to take that out of the equation, since each one of them has the ability to load custom third-party IRs. Maybe stock cabs are important to you, maybe they're not. We'll shoot them both out either way. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and special thanks to all of my awesome patrons. My patrons are great. Not only do they help support the channel, but they actually help me come up with a lot of these ideas that you guys see in these videos every week. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.